are you?
I'm good. And on behalf of All Access Network, all our podcasters, and my CEO, Litriana Brown, my bestie also, um, we welcome you. We have been excited about this coming, and it's finally here. I'm so happy.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be a part of All Access Network and
Thank you.
so happy.
That's great. So I'm going to let you have it. And I know you got a wonderful guest, a sweet lady. I just met her. And here you go. It's all yours.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my first ever podcast show with All Access Network. I'm so happy to be here. I will be doing shows that encompass both the metaphysical and the paranormal, both together and separately. Tonight's guest is one of my dear friends, Rita Olsen, and she is from Arizona Ghost Adventures. And she has been a good friend and a dear mentor of mine over the years. And I'm so excited to go ahead and bring her on up.
Hello.
Hi, how
Thank you.
are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for asking me to be your guest on your first show. I am super excited about this.
Yeah, I'm so happy you're here. Well, let's go ahead and dive right in. Tell us a little bit about uh, the Arizona Ghost Adventures team.
Oh, sure, sure. So it's AZ Ghost Adventures. I mean, I out here in Arizona, there's so many teams that have the name Arizona or AZ. Yeah, we shortened it. We're just AZ Ghost Adventures. I've owned the team. I worked with the team for a few years before I purchased it. I purchased the company in 2021 during COVID. And I always tell people, who buys a team during COVID, right? Me. And but it was an awesome opportunity, and I had visions beforehand of, if I could do something like this, where I would take it, and to make it follow the direction and the philosophy that I wanted it to follow. So of course I jumped right on it, and it's been a wild ride. It's been amazing. I've had opportunity to meet some amazing people, and go to some places that I've really enjoyed going to.
That's amazing. So, what first got your interest in the paranormal?
Well, actually, I've experienced paranormal all of my life, as far back as I can remember. And as a child, I would, see people, see things. But you're a kid, a little kid. You're used to that. That's normal. People don't question it. But then as I got older and I was a teenager, I actually have, and I think I've shared this story with you. I have a story that sticks out in my head. It was in Chicago, and which is where I grew up. A lot of history in that city. And we were just going to the lakefront, a group of us, a group of friends, and you kind of had to go through a fence to get into where these giant concrete blocks were on the lakefront. And we used to just sit there and hang out, and walking through this fence, you kind of had to go single file, a group going in and a group coming out. And I was the first one walking through, and I saw this woman, and I, to this day, I can remember what she looks like. She was a larger lady. She had platinum blonde hair. It came down to her shoulders and like a bob cut. But the unusual thing was, and even though it was dark, she looked like a dead person. I mean, she had that, the gray skin, the dark under the eyes. I mean, there was definitely something, and it wasn't makeup. It was nowhere around Halloween. It was just odd. And when I turned around to tell my friends, because again, walking, so as we're going this way, they're coming that way. And as I turn around to tell my friends, hey, did you see that lady? She was gone. She was she had just disappeared. So it was kind of
Oh,
around that
wow.
time that I was thinking, okay, I've got some things going on that I'm not going to share with people because they're going to think I'm crazy. And this was back in the 80s, and it was not early 80s, and it was not as readily accepted. Um, and people just didn't discuss it. You didn't talk about it. If you did, you kind of whispered it. Ghosts. So, so yeah, and then as I got older and had children, and I moved to Texas, and we had a house, and it was a brand new house, a new build, and the activity just ramped up. It would, I mean, anything from poltergeists to shadow figures to full bodied apparitions, things turning on and off, television stations changing. And this is when you had to like literally turn, with the older TVs and stereos, you had to turn the knobs, stereo stations changing, things disappearing and then turning up later. It was, and people would come to my house and even ask me, do you have ghosts? And because they would see, and it was a lot revolved around children. So, so yeah, it was becoming more evident, and it was becoming stronger. And I don't know if it was because of just all the stress of being a new parent, owning a home. It was a recession back then. There was just a lot of stress, and and so I don't know if it was that. I do know I would have this weird thing happen every now and then, like light bulbs would explode. And
Oh,
yeah, so we were going through light bulbs like nobody's business. And yeah, but I've kind of, as I've learned to settle myself and ground myself, that hasn't happened in quite a while. But I do notice if I get like very riled up about something, I'll have more activity happen. And on the same token, if I'm going to an investigation and I feel like really jittery, like ramped up, like I drink too much coffee, I know it's going to be a really good and active investigation. So, so yeah, it takes years to find uh, the connections.
right. That's amazing though, like having the light bulbs burst and having all those different kinds of things in the house. Like I would have probably had similar, similar reactions.
Yeah, yeah. And and I've had I'm a firm believer in guardian angels and uh your spirits that are around you that go through life with you. And I've had some things happen, like I had a really bad accident when I was 7, and I really shouldn't have made it through that accident. Uh and I think that something was looking out for me. And as I go back over and I play it in my head how it happened, yeah, I really was. I don't know. I mean, it's just here. I'll give you a perfect example. I'm in Globe, Arizona right now. I go between the Valley, which is like the Phoenix, Scottsdale area, and Globe. And I also work in healthcare out here in Globe. I work in occupational therapy in a building that's a old haunted hospital, by the way. But another story. And I had gotten off work in Miami, Arizona 2 weeks ago on Thursday, which is the little sister city, had experienced some flooding. And I was leaving work and I thought, I'm gonna call a friend of mine who's in Miami, Arizona, and see if she wants me to bring her some dinner. I'm sorry, my nose is itching. And see
No
if she wants
worries.
me to bring her some dinner. So I stopped at Safeway and picked up a few things, and as in my car, and I was getting ready to call her and say, "Hey, you order something and I'll pick it up, and my treat, and I'll drop it off for you," because she has a broken foot. She can't get around. And I got in my car and I started driving in that direction. It's about we'll just say a 15-minute drive. And something said in my head, this was a first for me. Go home. Like I tell people it was like Morgan Freeman when he plays God. It was that
Hmm.
deep, go home. And I kid
Wow.
you, I turned around and went home. And about a half hour later, a massive flood hit Globe. It was, I mean, there were deaths. It was a horrific, catastrophic flood that hit Globe. And had I been on the road, because I would have dropped off dinner and then been on my way back, had I been on the road, I would have been in it. And I mean, this is a type of flood that cars were washed away, campers were washed away. There was no stopping. Any buildings were just demolished. So I am a firm believer, when your gut tells you something, or you've got, whoever is looking out for you or whatever is looking out for you, that you listen to it, because it could have turned out completely. I could have not even been here today had
Wow.
I listened to that voice that said, go home. So, yeah.
Within first off, that's an incredible story. Like, and I've heard of stories where angels really do step in to keep us safe.
Mhm.
I've had my own experience with that. So to hear your story, just gives that extra energy of like, okay, yeah, it happens to multiple different people at
Mhm.
different times when they need it the most.
Yeah. And that's what I tell my people, even because I host private and group investigations, and you've been on my investigations. I tell people, everyone, we have a paraphilosophy that we follow, and the big things on it are respect the location and respect the spirits. It's not our job to judge them. We want to learn their story, and I feel like that's almost like my mission statement. Why do I experience these things? And I think it's to hear their stories and get it out, because their stories are important. And but I also, the other big thing is, everyone experiences the paranormal differently, and you've got to listen to that voice when it's talking to you, because that voice could be, like you said, a guardian angel telling you turn around and go home, or don't do this. Or also, I tell people, your instinct, I mean, we trust our dogs and cats. Your dog gets its hackles up and it's barking at nothing, and you're like, what is it, what is there? Why wouldn't we follow the same instincts that we have? It's almost like we're trying to uh, devolve from having those instincts, and that's really unfortunate, because I think it could be the driving force for a lot of things. And I think there's a lot of people out there that do experience the paranormal, or could have the opportunity. I don't feel that everyone can experience the paranormal. That's just my own personal belief on that. I don't think everyone's meant to, but I think there's a lot of people out there that can, but they just kind of push it away. It gets lost in the periphery of everything else going on.
I would agree with that entirely.
Yeah.
Would you say, like, actually, here's a good question. Within the paranormal, how have you seen in your own experience, like, different signs and things come up that come from a little bit more of a metaphysical standpoint in investigations that you've been through?
And ironically, just with this flood that happened, and we've had horrific flooding again today, but not like we had 2 weeks ago with loss of life. We had a lot of rain today. All of Arizona, it seems, is under rain today. But for about 6 months before this flood occurred, we were having a lot of flood victims come through on our investigations.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's almost like you have to sit back, hindsight being 2020. It's like, were we being given a warning or a premonition, or was the energy, you know, doing what it does in this crazy mystical world? And was it ramping up? So these spirits that had, because, and I'm sorry, I need to digress. Globe had a massive flood in 1904 where 6 people perished. And I'm still, in fact, right before this, I was getting some information from like the town historian. about the route that the water took and things that happened. And she had mentioned, well, there was another flood in the 50s. I was like, yeah, but this one had six deaths. And we've been having people, or I should say spirits, come through for several months. And was it kind of like the universe was starting to move in that direction? I mean, if you believe in, premonitory things like that. And it's just really unusual, because we were like, why are these people coming through? What's going on? And ironically, I was in one of the buildings just Saturday, and I was in the Elks building, the 3-story Elks building out here, which also housed the Joan Funeral Home. And the building wasn't built until 1910, but the Elks had meetings at other places, unofficial places. And I was in this investigation. I said, I had just gotten this newspaper article about the flood, and we had the flood happen. I'm going to read it. You would not believe the amount of activity that started happening. I mean, it was like swirling around us. And it's like we opened a door, not a bad door, not a Pandora's box, but just, in fact, I was telling people, I was doing an SD session, and I was telling people, it felt like there was a group of people around me, like they kept getting closer. And I rewatched the video of my SD session, and I was saying, listen to me, listen. And that's why it's like these people were coming around saying, listen, like this happened to us too. And we were having a lot of activity around 2 specific names. So I'm going to have to do some more research on that. So we had that. I don't know I think I might have gotten off task a little bit on your question, how the metaphysical,
well, no, that's still like really, no, it still makes sense, because if you're having a session where they're coming to you and they're letting you know, hey, something is coming, like paying attention to that, and then paying attention to the signs that are being given in regards to going back home when this flood was coming through, that's very much at least to me, that like the those that your guides, your ancestors are absolutely trying to protect you in that.
Yeah, I was just like, I mean, I've had where you're like, oh, I shouldn't do this. I believe in trusting your gut, but this was like a voice, just loud and clear in my head. And I was like, I literally was going one direction, and I turned around and went the other direction. It's like, okay, I'm going home. So yeah, that was very interesting. But I'm sorry, I think I did get off task though with what your initial question was. So how the metaphysical and how we use that to like steer or guide what we do.
Well, yeah, like within the paranormal, or techniques or things that you would use in the paranormal field that has definitely shown positive results for you, as well as what are some signs or do you experience, do you hear, do you see, do you have smells or sounds that come through? What comes through most clearly for you when in paranormal locations?
Okay. So my favorite tool is dowsing rods. I think it makes you become the tool. You become the piece of equipment, and you get to feel everything that's going on. And when I first started using dowsing rods, I hated them because I tend to run up here and I'm always like, what's going on? Things like that. But for some reason, I just felt like I needed to hone my craft with them. So I started using them, and I kept using them. And now I teach a lot of people how to use them, or encourage them to at least try them. Because when you can feel the rods pulling, or sometimes it's almost like a magnet that brings them together, and they like grind against each other, or we've had investigations where we were at the domes, the Casa Grande domes, and my rods, I was holding them, and it was very hot out that day, but my rods started shaking, like bouncing. And I'm holding on to the sheaths, the copper sheaths that are around it. And I'm thinking, am I having a stroke? What the heck is going on? And, and they're bouncing. And my teammate was there next to me. She saw what was happening. I was like, look at this. My hands aren't shaking though. Why are these things bouncing? So yeah, those have really been my go-to. And again, I love them because they're, historically they've been used for a long time. They've been used for different reasons. I did have an experience I'll share. We had a horse rider. So when I'm out in the Scottsdale area, I'm up. It's like up. It's up in the foothills, and a lot of horse ranches out there and things like that. We're right on the Tonto National Forest. And we had a rider that was reported missing, and you could hear the helicopters at night, and on the Facebook posts, all these things were happening. And the next day, I was actually supposed to go get my oil changed in my car. So I'm not dressed to be tromping around the desert. And I had a super lightweight sweatshirt on with a pocket in the front and some capris and some tennis shoes, right? And something before I left told me, pull your dowsing rods out. And I did. And I started asking questions of this writer who was missing. And the answers coming through were that she had passed and she wants to be found, and she wants to be with her family. And so I went to where the command station was set up right down the road from our house at a ranch. And I told them, I said, hey, would you like me to go drive down around the river? I'm going to get my oil changed. I can go take a drive by the river. And they're like, no, we know she's within a mile of the house, because they were able to get into her Fitbit somehow. I guess her phone was in her knapsack on the horse. And so I said, okay, well, I'll go looking. And the interesting thing, not funny, but interesting thing was, I had called my daughter-in-law and left her this message, a voicemail, and it must have sounded so bizarre about how I had to go look for this person because they need me to find them. And even my husband, when he saw me driving away, because he was in his office at the front of the house, and he called me, he goes, oh, are you going to get your oil changed? And I said, well, I have to go help look for so-and-so. And he goes, no, they don't want anyone out there, because they have the helicopters with the heat, the heat sensors on them, whatever they're called. And I said, well, that's not going to matter because she's already passed. It's not going to work. And he was like, I hate when you do that. You creep me out. So I went searching, and I'm trying to give you the Cliff's Notes version of this story. I went searching in the desert and with my dowsing rods, and everyone's going kind of north, and I start heading east. And, about 15 minutes into it, I realized, well, heck, I'm all by myself out in the desert now. I mean, it's out there. And but it's not flat. It's all hills and sloping and washes and things like that. And I'm thinking, if I get hurt, no one's going to be able to find me out here. And
right.
Telling my dowsing rods, I was like, you need to tell me where to go. You need to tell me where to go. And they were putting me in directions. And I got to this one point where there was a bunch of scrub, and there was a wash to my right and to the left. It kind of was like sloping up and down, sloping hills. And I said, which way do I go? And my rods immediately went to the left. And so I went that way. And about 30 yards ahead of me was a hill. And you could tell there was like a valley, a dip in it. I couldn't see into the dip. And thank goodness a couple came up, because for the longest time I was the only one out there. A couple came up, and they looked down, and they said, we found her. So of course I start running, because I work in healthcare. I'm thinking, okay, I gotta be wrong. She needs CPR. She has a broken bone. I can help her, stay stabilized until they get help out. And as I start running, they hold their hand up and they said, no, she's gone.
Oh,
And
wow.
I mean, that really shook me. And I walked away, and I was yelling, they found her, so they could, and I'm loud. I can be very loud. Um, so they could get her. But there was a part of me that was so thankful that couple came up over the ridge, because had they not, in 30 seconds, I would have been right there. And
Oh, my.
I work in skilled nursing. I work with the geriatric population. I mean, my specialty is in mental behavioral health, and but I've spent a lot of time working with the geriatric population, so I'm exposed to that all the time, all the time. But this was, I mean, just that something told me I needed to go out there and I needed to find her. And I mean, and I didn't, that's something I didn't promote on my site. I didn't, I tell that story, but I don't want people thinking that I'm not a psychic medium. I don't have your abilities. I mean, there's a part of me that wishes I did, but then there's a part of me that wishes I didn't. Um, so
But we all have our gifts, and it sounds like you used yours and listened to what you were being guided to do.
Yeah. So that's just one of the stories of things that happen. And that's why I love using my dowsing rod, and I trust them. I mean, you have to trust the process, and I trust them. I put my faith in it. So one of the other things is, you were saying what we have happen. I had to take my glasses off. It's like incredibly hot in my kitchen here. I don't know why. Something about being in Arizona. But as I'm holding a package of dowsing rods, um, but I keep a retractable set in my bag, so when I travel or something, I can pull them out. People are like, "Oh my God, what else do you have in your bag?" But you were asking about some of the things, that I can experience. So I mean, I think a lot of people who experience the paranormal, we'll call it that, or the metaphysical, can, this, of course, smells, sounds, hearing voices, um, seeing full bodied apparitions, seeing shadow figures. I think my thing is, and I know when we did an investigation and I was sitting next to you and we were like going in tangent, remember that? You would say something,
Yeah,
then I say something, and you would say something, and the story was coming out. Well, what it is with me, it's like a movie going on in my head. And I'm not seeing it, but I'm seeing it. Does that make sense? And
absolutely.
and I'm knowing it. I'm knowing this movie. And and it's so funny because, like, I'll call someone and they'll be like, "Oh my God, I was just picking up the phone to call you." And I mean, this happens a lot. Or I'll email someone and they'll say, "Oh my God, I was just like thinking about you." But on an investigation, it's like this movie going on in my head. And I've learned to listen to it. And a lot of times that'll drive the questioning that I'm doing, or who I feel like I'm communicating with. And because, I truly believe that the spirits want us to hear their story. They want someone to talk to, being
Yeah.
good, bad, or indifferent. Like when we were doing it that one time on the second floor men's tank, that was some pretty horrific stuff that was coming out, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was. So, and you even got scratched that night. Do you
I
remember?
did. I will
Mhm.
never forget that. That was my first time ever getting scratched at a location.
Yeah. I mean, I've been touched and pushed, and I've never been scratched. But it's just this. I've learned with this movie going on in my head that I'm knowing it. That I may say, okay, wait, there's a girl here and this happened to her, and we need to go down that line of questioning, because spirits can only get out. It's not like they sit there and recite what happened to them. It is
Right.
truly investigating. You don't get everything day one. And you may go back and they may not be there the second time, but they may be there the fifth time. So, and, you know, and investigations a lot are driven with what's coming forward by who's there. Because, you know, because there's other things that people may bring in with them, or they may remind a spirit of something. So you can't always know that you're going to have this one spirit that's going to come forward. There may be a stronger spirit that wants to come forward, and it's kind of like, oh, back up the bus. It's my turn to talk to this person. So, so yeah, it's, you know, it's that. So yeah, that's, to me, that's my biggest thing. I don't remember my dreams, but when I do remember
Mm-hmm.
I take them very seriously. And a good example of that is I was going to Texas to meet some friends, and I had a dream that I was on an airplane, and the pilot said to lean forward. He goes, "This is going to hurt." So I remember. And then it was a boom. And then the next thing I know, I'm standing on the shore, like a shoreline, talking to someone. They're standing next to me, and I turn and I'm talking to them. And I say, "Why are those people standing on the water?" And so I almost canceled my trip, but my flights were non-refundable. And my husband's, and I
Mm-hmm.
used to fly for a living. And he's like, "No, you're just worried about flying. You haven't done it in a while." And so I fly to Texas, and I'm with my friends, and we were in the hill country, and uh, we had rented a cabin, and we picked up the groceries, and we're unloading them in the cabin. And I told them, and someone had turned on the TV, and I was telling them the story about how I almost didn't make it. I said, "You know, I love our girls' trips, but I almost didn't come here because this was the stream I was having." And I had my back to the TV, and one of my friends goes, "Oh my God, turn around." And I turned around, and they had on the news, it was that plane where the pilot had landed it in the Hudson that
I
had
remember
crashed.
hearing about that. Yeah.
What was, Bethany? What was the name of the pilot that had landed that plane? Yeah, well, let's see. That had landed it. Cully? Sully. That's it, Sully. And if you remember, if you go back and look at that, what he did was, and he was like recognized and received a ton of awards because he managed to land that plane in the Hudson, and the people got out of the plane and were standing on the wing, which was, it looked, if you looked at it on TV, it looked like they were standing on water.
Oh, wow. So
Because
you
he
had a
said,
premonition
and
dream.
I turned around, I said, "That's my dream." And they were all freaked out. They're like, "That's what you just described." And it had happened while I was flying the same day I flew.
Wow.
So yeah, while I was flying, that happened. And and so that's, you know, so I was like, okay, I am always going to pay attention to the few times I remember them. I so pay attention to my dreams. I had a dream after we started investigating the Elks building, and that I was uh, walking downstairs, and we have a long, I'm not going to go into it. Well, that'll be another story for another day.
I'd like that. Yeah.
I dreamt that I was in someone's body walking down the stairs, and it's part of this story that we've been investigating at this building. And I mean, it was so intense, I had to get up and write it down. So yeah, that'll be in the, because it's long. That'll be another story for another day. But yeah, my dreams, if I remember them now, I heed them. They have a meaning. So, and they're not and sometimes when I remember them, they're not good either. I mean, sometimes they're good, or sometimes there's something about my, you know, something as simple as something about my kids. And I call them and ask them, and they're like, how did you know that? So, so yeah, it's that.
That's
But I
amazing.
don't like,
You know,
no, I'm sorry.
oh, no, I was just saying that's amazing because I think dreams actually can really be big telltale signs sometimes
They
when
can.
things
I'm
are
thinking, you know, and when
have
we do,
occurred.
have you ever had premonitory dreams?
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Like I've had a the situations, and sometimes they're pleasant, and sometimes they really are not. And then I hear a story about something that had or had occurred or occurred after I had the dream, whether it was in a storyline on, something going on TV, or a situation outside of me, where some of those things within those dreams had occurred. And
Mhm.
it dreams are so important.
Yeah. 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 And, and I think sometimes it's a way our, our guard is let down. We have so much going on. We have so much going on in our periphery around us during the day. I think it's for some of us when that guard is down and your brain is just doing what your brain does at night. It's kind of like repairing itself at night when you sleep. Is I think that's a good opportunity for whatever is allowing us, or if it's a spirit giving us that dream or something, it's an easier opportunity for them to get in and tell us that. And like I said, some are good and some are not. Some are not good. Like I think the last bad one that I had was when the Malaysian airliner flight disappeared. Yeah,
Mm.
and I had a really bad dream. I woke up that morning and I told my husband, I said, I had this really bad dream and this is what it was. And then we get our coffee and go to watch the news in the morning, and this flight had disappeared. So I have my own theory on why it disappeared. But yeah, it was not good. So yeah, so that's
Wow.
just
Now, what are
so.
some of the
I'm
more?
sorry.
Go ahead.
Gwen was just asking, do I keep a dream journal? No, I should though, huh? That's funny that you say
Hmm.
that because I have a journal book on my table and I was like, I have this cute journal book. What do I need to use it for? I was just looking at it today. It's got a little ghost on the front of it. And
That's cute.
I'm going to keep that on my nightstand to do that.
So, what are some of the more funny experiences that you've had at paranormal events that have occurred?
Oh my gosh. Okay, let's see. Oh my gosh, yes. I've got, but Bethany. She's in the living room. She's working on her computer. So
Hi, Bethany.
hi Bethany. You want to come wave hi to her? So this past Saturday, this is a good one. So when I do my STs, I mean, it's like, and for those of you that don't know what an ST session is, it's where you're using a spirit box and you're wearing noise canceling headphones that are plugged directly into the spirit box. And you're also wearing a mask, an eye mask, so you can't see. And so the theory is that and it's true. I shouldn't say theory. So the premise is that it keeps you from having any outside influences that may pollute your responses. So you can't see what the person's saying or anyone's reaction, and you can't hear the questions that the person's asking you. So, and when I do them, I kind of like go deep into them. And so, which is what you want. And that's what we encourage people, just to kind of relax, almost like reach a meditative state and just whatever you hear, because you don't know what we're asking. And I'm doing this ST session, and we're in the old Elks building, and there's a train tracks that go right next to the building. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, at first I remembered, and I watched the video too. And I'm like, there's something around me. And then it's shaking and then it's shaking. And I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? So I peel everything off because I'm thinking, is it an earthquake? And but it was the train, and it was just incredibly loud and incredibly, I mean, it was just rumbling. It was just sitting there and rumbling. And so that was funny because I was starting to freak out a little bit in this SC session. Like, is the building coming down around me? What the heck is going on? I mean, that's how much you were shaking. So, pardon me? Yeah, they were all laughing at me. Of course, they were laughing at me. And then the other thing is, I get so deep in these SD sessions. We were at the Sally House, which is a great place to investigate in Kansas. Incredibly intense location. I'm trying to go back in February because we're going to the Missouri Paracon, and so I'm in the Sally House and I'm doing this Estes, and it was one of those that was starting to go sideways a little bit. And we always say, if you feel like it's going sideways, or the person, asking you the questions feels like it's starting to go sideways, to stop it, because you can always start back up, right?
Right.
And there is a big thing about controlling what's going on, and not letting the spirits control you. So so I'm doing this SD session, and I'm like deep into it. And we were having a nurse coming through. We were having, what was that coming through? It was a gentleman coming through, because there were some not great things that happened there. And she went to stop it, and I about decked her because I jumped so much that I threw my arm out like this, and I almost clocked her.
Oh
And I'm
no.
cautious too, because I tell people, if I'm stopping it, you're going to feel me tap your shoulder. But I mean, I lean in and I jump back, because I do that when I get into mine. I usually, and someone stops it. I mean, like I said, I'll stop it myself if I feel it's getting a little too intense. But yeah, I almost beamed her once. But I mean, I've had investigations like at the basement of Bullion Plaza in Miami, Arizona, where my behind was grabbed once, and that made me jump up and scream. People have like spooked me at my just to kind of like play jokes on me, have spooked me at my investigations. So we've had that, and we like to have a good
Do
time on our
you
investigations too.
do you remember the Guyla City Jail when we were upstairs at the top of the jail, and all of a sudden, like, we heard Ghostbusters, the people playing the song Ghostbusters as they went by? That is one of my favorite stories.
So, for those of you that don't know, we were at the 1910 Gila County Jail, and it is an incredibly active location. In fact, if I get time, I think I was telling you about an arsonist that we have been communicating with there, and we have a picture of him. But we're upstairs in the jail, and all of a sudden, it's a small city, small mining town, built 1870s. It still hasn't gotten much bigger. Streets aren't very big, and so we're in this investigation in this huge truck, like a big old F-350 lift, 4x4, is riding by. First, it's playing music, and it's got these big speakers in the back. I mean, like the big 6-foot speakers. And it's going down the street in front of the building, and it's playing this. And I'm like, oh my God, they're going to be doing this all night, right? And pretty much everyone here in the town knows me. I mean, I'm always wearing my shirt or my logos on my car or something, or we'll share. People are always coming up, sharing their stories and stuff, and that's really great. But I was just like, oh, at first I was like, oh, these guys are going to be like bothering us. We're trying to do this investigation, and they're going to be jacking with us, right? So what was it? Just a few minutes later, they came around the block, and they start coming in front of the jail again. And the jail has a lot of busted out windows. I mean, it doesn't have this place. You never wanted to be put in, because there are no amenities, and windows being one of them. And this thing comes by, and it starts playing the Ghostbusters song. And we were just I mean, that was great. That was great. That totally changed my mood about it. It's like, we keep talking about it too when we're there. And it's like, I wonder if those guys are going to come back again playing the Ghostbusters music. So no, that was really cute. That was good.
It like shook the entire jail.
It
Like,
did. The
we could
speakers,
feel it vibrating.
they were huge. They were huge. So, or one time you're at an investigation, I missed it, but they had apparently So the city's like on a hill, which is why we have some really bad flooding at one side of town. But apparently they were doing races and reclining chairs down the main road because it's such a hill. And I missed that. I was really bummed. Something that was interesting, not funny, interesting, but one time we were outside taking a break in front of the jail, and this woman comes walking across the street. I really don't even remember. She kind of came out of the alley and comes walking across the street, and she's crying, and she's on like a phone, but then she leans up against the telephone pole or whatever power pole it was there, about 50 feet away from me, and she's like sobbing. So, and we have a bunch of people outside, and you always want to be cautious too, right? You want to make sure
Right.
that you're not being set up for anything. But she was just sobbing. And then I start walking, I made sure that I was like, hey, you guys keep an eye on me. I'm going to go check on this woman. And so I start walking towards her, and she turns and she runs away. Well, by this time I'm really concerned about her. So I run after her, and the building right next door to the jail is the courthouse, which was the site of the original jail and the original gallows when they would do hangings. And so she runs around the corner, and I'm just a few seconds behind her. And I turn the corner, and she is gone. She's gone. I literally went, and there are street lights on, but there's no stores that she can get into. Everything's locked. It was like midnight. And I was looking for her, and I hollered as to some of the other people, come on, come here and look. Went all the way around the block. She was nowhere to be found. She just disappeared. Just
Oh,
disappeared.
wow.
And there were a lot of people that saw her, and they're like, where the hell did she go? And I was literally a few seconds behind her. And it's not like a car came down the street. There were no cars out. Nothing. We were the only people out there. And she just disappeared. So
Vanished.
yeah, that was a weird story. But yeah, we like to have fun on our investigations. So I'm a firm believer that, we got to be serious, and respectful, but we like to have a good time. And this is a Wild West mining town. Language was very salty. So I have to tell my guests, you're going to get called a name, and it's going to be the P word or the C word or a D word or something. But and they do, and they're prepared for it. And we get a good little laugh about it. It's like, whoops, you got called the P word tonight. Or other words, the W word. I don't know what words I can say on your show, so use your imagination. And and I think that's good too, because I think when you're laughing, or at least if you have some of that, it creates that energy. Just like when if it's someone's birthday, we sing happy birthday to them, and because it gets that energy ramped up. And I think the spirits thrive off of that. So it's definitely worked for us. So let's see. You can say any of them now. I would do a big pot. We get some stuff. We have a spirit come through, Pete Spence. He comes through quite a bit. And if anyone is familiar with the story of the shootout at the OK Corral in Tombstone, and there was I'll call him a rough and tumble Western no gooder guy, whatever you want to call him. And hey, Lauren. And we were having this Pete guy come through for the longest time. And we called him potty mouth Pete because his language, it was vulgar. And then I started doing some research, and I actually was at the cemetery out here one day, and some stuff was coming through about Pete Spence. And Pete Spence is we'll just use the word criminal. And he and oh shoot, I'm having a brain fart. Who was with Pete Spence? Finn Clanton. That's it. Thank you. It's been a long day. He and Finn Clanton were kind of like criminals in the Tombstone area. And, everyone's familiar with the Earp brothers and the shootout at the OK Corral. Well, Pete Spence was accused of shooting Wyatt Earp, or Morgan Earp. I'm sorry, Morgan Earp. And he got out on a technicality, something because his spouse couldn't testify against him. And but Pete Spence moved to Globe with Finn Clanton, and then Finn Clanton passed, and Pete Spence had happened to marry. Then he married Finn Clanton's widow. But it's a big, to us, it's a big thing because this Pete guy had been coming through for years. We didn't know about Pete Spence. And then we figured it out and doing our research and the information that we were getting on our investigations. And now, I mean, we've done lives at his burial site. We tell people about it. We educate them on it because that's a big part of our investigations. We're historically based. We want to give you the correct information. You learn about the location that you're investigating. I think that helps you become more invested in it. And then the name makes sense too. I mean, if you hear the name Pete, you don't know what it's about. It's just some guy named Pete swearing. But I truly believe that spirits appreciate, again, and he was not the greatest guy, but it's not my place to judge. It's my place to learn the story and put it out there. And I kind of think that he's thinking, I lived in Tombstone and they don't say a dang word about me, right? And here these people in Globe are recognizing me and I can communicate with them, and I have been communicating with them, and they're getting my story out. Because there's a little bit of that like narcissistic behavior in guys like that. And he comes through quite a bit on our investigations. In fact, we were just we were on an investigation, and I had someone doing Estes that had never done it. It was a small group. We weren't even in Arizona. We were in Minnesota. We were investigating with Dave Schrader. It was a private investigation with him. And we had a group of 5 of us, and him and Cindy Kaza. And this gal he was not in the room with us, but this gal started doing this Estes, and Pete Spence starts coming through. And it's like, well, let's validate that it's Pete. We were getting the name. And I said, where are you from? It's hot. Well, yeah, we're in Arizona. And it's like, yeah, but where are you from? And she said, Era. It's like, well, you got to say it louder than that. We can't hear you. And then she just yelled out, Arizona. So either we had a spirit that was the ultimate trickster, or this Pete Spence is able to travel with us, which I do believe spirits can travel with you. So
Yeah, I have a belief that can happen too, because if they like certain beings and they're used to certain people and communicating with them, it would make sense that they would want to travel too sometimes.
yeah. And I think it helps too that, like I said, I have a medical background. I work in occupational therapy, and for years I worked with mental health behavioral patients. I still do. And, depending the unit that I'm on at that time. And I always go into it with, I don't know what their background may have been. I don't know, and I'm not making excuses for anybody, but it's not, again, even with my patients, that's not my job to go in and judge them. It's my job to go in and try to help them. And, a lot with the mental, like I've worked in mental institutions. I've done clinicals there, and it was psychosocial. My job wasn't going to go in and judge them. My job was to go in and try to make them be able to function socially. So yeah, and I take that same methodology to my investigations. It's not for me to say, oh, you were a horrible guy. I mean, I hear about people who investigate, especially like in jails. And even out here in Globe, I've seen some YouTubes that I would just be appalled if someone did that on one of our investigations. Well, they would be kicked out immediately if that were the case. But, you see people with the batons, like hitting the jail cells, or we're going to lock you in here, and saying things to try to antagonize, to get spirits to come forward. And, and that I just don't think that works. Um, and B, I don't believe in poking the bear. You go looking for trouble, you're going to find trouble.
Absolutely. I mean, I've been in situations where when I was in Utah before I came to Arizona, where they would antagonize the spirits, and I wasn't expecting it. I mean, I was newer to the field at that time as a medium, and then, metaphysical worker, and then going into paranormal situations where they would really try to rile these different spirits up, and then they would end up being scratched or hurt, and they'd wonder
Mhm.
why. And I'm like, well, maybe if you treated them like they were spirits that had feelings and emotions instead of antagonizing them, then
Mhm. Yeah.
perhaps you might actually get a better conversation going.
And I think, and again, I have said I don't think that everyone is meant to experience the paranormal. I think there are certain people that have certain abilities, and that's what with my team. I try to surround myself with people who have, abilities that they want to nurture them and grow them. And and I certainly want to encourage that. Also, we encourage it with our guests too, and to do it the right way. But not everyone. I don't believe everyone is meant to experience it. It's just, just like not everyone's meant to be a brain surgeon. I would love to be I would love to be an anesthesiologist. They make great money.
They do.
It's not in my cards though. It's not in my cards. So I think you get some people who go that route, or they want to go for the jump scare or whatever, and because that's all they got. And
Yeah.
and they go that route to try to get something. And it's usually those people, those groups. Like, I don't have a YouTube channel. It's my goal to get one going, but I've seen so many, YouTube channels and Facebook pages where these people are doing this, but it's like, how about giving us some evidence instead? Let's see what I want results. I'm result oriented. And if all I'm going to see is you trying to antagonize, or make your guests fearful because you're doing this, because that really does create an anxiety and fearful environment, then yeah, it's maybe it's just because you aren't getting anything, and
Well,
you
and
can't
it
get anything, and that's just the way it is. Again, that's why I'm not an anesthesiologist. So
mhm. And it can create trauma for people that have never come into a situation like that
exactly,
before.
exactly,
Like, this, that really is something that does disappoint me, is when people are trying to create those kinds of energies, because you want, at least my thought process is, it's better to have like actual evidence, and it's actually better to teach people how to do investigations from different perspectives, but in a way that is not going to frighten them more than
exactly.
anything.
Exactly. And it's credible. I mean, we've had people come in. We just had this conversation with somebody last weekend, and they were expressing fear at what was happening. And it didn't, I was like, well, does it seem malicious? No. Does it, so you're not feeling like anything wants to hurt you? You're having, not just, but you're having this and this. And they're like, yeah. And it's like, okay, well, and I certainly can't tell people what to do. They have to do some of that, finding their path on their own. But I do tell them, when I was younger, again, when I was talking about being a teenager, it concerned me. It was scary. It was scary. I had some things. I had one time where I had called my husband. I was like, I'm losing my mind. I'm losing my mind. And because of everything that was going on. And but I tell people now, I come to it from, how lucky am I that I get to experience these spirits wanting to come to me and be like, hey, We want to communicate with you because they get excited. Think about it. They're excited that there's someone there that they can communicate with. And, and there, you do have to learn to control it though. You don't want just anything railroading over you. I've had plenty of times where I'm home alone at night or something. And, especially, my house has like lever handles, and my husband used to travel for work, and I'd be home alone, and you could hear I'd be on the phone with him, like the door handles are clicking, click, 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 click. And I finally would be like, okay, you need to knock it off. You need to stop it, because I have to go to work in the morning. So yeah, it's just drawing. You have to draw boundaries, which you would do with anything, with anybody. So just, and I hate saying it's not just adjust, because it's bigger than that. Mm-hmm. But being able to learn to draw those boundaries and to maintain that control, and it is a process.
I literally just went through something similar last night. I had come home. There was an unexpected spirit that came forward that I was not expecting, as I was walking up to my doorsteps. Mm-hmm. And I told the being, I was like, you cannot come inside and you cannot follow me up to my room. Well, yeah. All of a sudden I'm hearing tapping on my window, and I'm 3 floors up. And I'm like, absolutely not. I am going to bed. We can
it'd be like Pet Cemetery, they're like,
yeah. Yeah, it was just like, no. And that's part of, I think that's part of, setting boundaries so that we, as metaphysical beings, are not spiritually like railroaded.
Yeah. Well, remember the time that ironically makes me think about the time I was just looking at it today. The painting. Remember that painting that I bought?
Yes.
And we join in. So I bought a painting. I love scrounging around Goodwills. I mean, it's like, what are you going to find? And I love antiques and things like that. I have a lot of antiques, and I was at a Goodwill, and I looked up on the shelf, and it's not where the painting should have been. And there was this frame, and I could only see part of it, but it looked really gaudy. And I was like, oh, I love a good gaudy frame, right? So I literally had to like climb up. I'm tall, but I still had to like climb up onto it and like reach up and grab it. And I pulled it down, and it's this picture from 1907. And it's a painting. It's an oil painting, and it's a woman standing, but she's a white woman, but she's like dressed in Middle Eastern, like what you would think of someone would be wearing in a movie. And there's a camel in the background, and she's next to a well. And I was like, wow. And it has the original sticker on the back. This is a very high quality painting that I got for $7.99. And I immediately wanted it. So I brought it, and I set it on a tabletop because I didn't have anything to hang it with. And it was right next to a futon. Now, my house out here in Globe is tiny. It's a little 1950s bungalow. And my bedroom looks directly onto where this futon is in my living room. And so it's right next to it. And I had my other teammate here, Bethany, and she was spending the night, and she uses an inhaler for her asthma. Well, I'm in bed. She had fallen asleep on the couch, which is right around the corner from my bedroom door. And the living room's dark, and I was laying in bed, and I'm reading my Kindle, and I see what I think is her leaning over the futon. It was dark, so it's just but it was there was definitely someone there. And I'm thinking it's just her looking for an inhaler, because it falls out of her pocket all the time. She must have thought that it was on the futon. And so I go back to my reading, and a couple of minutes later, I see what I think is her standing there again over the futon, like a figure hunched over this futon. And so I turned to put my Kindle down, because I was like, oh, and earlier in the evening, I had seen her inhaler on the couch that she was sleeping on. And I'm thinking, she doesn't want to get me up. She doesn't want to bother me. So I put my Kindle down, and by the time I look forward, the figure's gone. So I'm thinking she just walked past the doorway. And I get up, and I'm walking out the corner, and I say, Bethany, what are you looking for? She is sound asleep on the couch. I can assure you, I woke her up. I mean, I was like, "Get up. This is so cool." So she gets up and she goes in the bathroom, and I pull out some equipment, and it immediately starts going off. And I was like, okay, there is something here. And it was a day or two later that we had you helping with, well, we had done a live. I was like, I got to figure out who this lady is. So I had done a live, just having people like see the painting and what are you getting from it? Because that's what I had brought new into the house.
Mm-hmm.
She, we were getting the name Nora coming through and things like that. And that's when the next day we did another one, and we had you join in to send her on her way. And that it was the lady from that painting, and that she had been in an accident, and the painting was meant for her daughter. And somehow it turned up in my hands, and her daughter has since passed. And I had wanted to look up the frame shop. It's out of Seattle, of all places. It's on the back, but it's no longer there. But it was at the time a prestigious framing shop. And so you helped send this nice lady on her way with her daughter, which was wonderful
She was
because,
a beautiful soul.
yeah. And it's just, I think it's, how things happen. I believe in serendipity. I believe that, things are put in front of us for a reason. And the fact that I just happened to look up and I think I was maybe like looking for some Halloween stuff actually. And I just happened to look up and see this gaudy frame and be able to climb up and grab it. Yeah. So it was, it was put there in front of me for me to find it, so she could be sent on her way. And it still hangs. It hangs in my living room.
Yeah, it's a beautiful painting for those of you that that haven't seen the picture. So yeah. So what do you have that is currently coming up or going on? Like, where can people find you?
Well, you can find me it's really hard. We've made it really difficult. On Facebook, we're AZ Ghost Adventures. And our Gmail is AZ Ghost Adventures. So it's just azghostadventures@gmail.com. Our website is azghostadventures.com. Our Facebook is AZ Ghost Adventures. TikTok, AZ Ghost Adventures. We actually have several Facebook pages. We have AZ Ghost Adventures and AZ Ghost Adventures Evidence and Discussion. And the evidence and discussion site is where people can post their findings and ask questions and things like that. So our events won't get lost behind all that kind of stuff. And we require that everyone be respectful. We want discussion. And if you don't agree with somebody, that's okay. That is okay. But you're going to do it respectfully. And we also have Arizona Hauntings and the Supernatural. And I love that name. I mean, when I bought the company, it was called AZ Ghost Adventures. I would have named it something else. I mean, I really was like tempted to do that because it's just it's so similar to a lot of other companies out here. And well, and then you have Ghost Adventures, right? And a lot of people are like, oh my God, you're part of them. And it's like, no, I mean, we filmed with them twice. We've worked with them twice, but we're not them. But when I bought the company, it was the business license and all the social media and the insurance and everything was already under that name. So it was would have been too difficult. So we kept it, and it's, it's us now. It's us. And so it's AZ Ghost Adventures, AZ Ghost Adventures Evidence and Discussion, and Arizona Hauntings and the Supernatural. And then we also we're on Instagram and TikTok, and I think I'm on X. I just haven't posted on it in forever because it's a lot. It's a lot. And then we're thinking of starting a YouTube channel. That's one of my goals for 2026 is to get a YouTube channel started. We're also doing some work with Summit Star Productions. If you guys want to look it up, the series is Twisted Tales, and and I love working with them. The host of the show, Sean, is amazing, and so we've got some networks looking at it, so that's super exciting. What else? What else? Oh, our investigations. So yeah, we investigate throughout Globe, Oracle. We are actually doing Wednesday. We're doing a fundraising event at the Cave Creek Museum, which is the site of the old Desmont Sanatorium in Cave Creek. For a lot of people that don't know, Arizona was a hot spot during the tubercular days, and people would go to Cave Creek, or they would also go to Oracle, which is another location that we investigate at the Acadia Ranch. We were just there not too long ago in Oracle, Arizona. It's not a huge building. In fact, but it was bigger, and then parts of it sold off, but it's an incredibly active building. So we have Globe, Arizona, Oracle, Cave Creek. We have a new location in Globe, but I can't talk about it yet. It's a surprise. And then we have another new location that I can't talk about yet. We'll be announcing it soon up near Wickenburg. So and you could just go onto our website to see our locations. We're going to be at the jail, the Globe Jail, like where you got scratched. We're going to be there this Saturday. This Saturday. It is a sold out event, and we keep our groups small. We cap it at 20, and then we split off into 2 groups of 10. Because we are not entertainment, but we are an experience. We want you to have that experience. And if you have too many people, too much noise, it takes away from that. In some locations, we have smaller groups just because of the size of the location. We don't want to overcrowd anything. And then but we may have to cancel it. I'm not sure. Our 4th annual Bullion, we call it, Halloween event, which is, just Halloween it's my heart. Growing up in Chicago, that Halloween that's the season, that's the holiday. And we have pizza, we have everyone leaves with a trick or a treat. We have some games, we have some prizes, but we also have a full-blown paranormal investigation with it. The unfortunate thing is with all the flooding that Globe has had, the building is being used by it's called Team Rubicon, and they're living there right now because they are search rescue and helping with the flood relief efforts. They were supposed to have been out by the 24th, but with all the flooding that we just had again today, I'm doubtful that they'll be out by the 24th, but it's still on our books, fingers crossed. But if we have to cancel it and reschedule it for something else, then that's what we'll do. I want everyone to be safe. So, and I'm just so thankful that I'm safe through all these floods, because a huge part of the flooding was like a block from my house. Fortunately, I'm up on a hill, so we didn't have any of the flooding, but a block from my house, there was some pretty catastrophic flooding. And then in November 15th, we'll be at the Globe Train Depot, and it's almost going to be like a grand reopening for them, because it's the 1916 Globe Train Depot, because they were flooded, and it's under, everything's being done. And we were part of the cleaning it up, and I can't thank enough of the people who came out from all over Arizona to help. And so the building has been cleaned out. It's still kind of in the drying out phase, but we'll have that for the 15th, and we'll probably tie a fundraiser to it also for.
I love the train depot.
Yeah. Did I cover everything?
Also, you do a paranormal conference.
We
yearly.
did. Oh, and also I want to say the first Saturday in December, we do have Bullion. It's 35,000 square feet, guys. So old segregated school, incredibly active. We do host an annual toy drive there, and it's a paranormal investigation also. So I just want to make sure everyone heard about that also. A Paracon, yeah, we hosted our first. I mean, there have been Paracons in Globe before, but this is the first year that we got to host it, the Globe Paracon, and it was. I was really happy. It was a lot of work, and it was so very worth it. We had some great vendors. Raven, I'm so sorry you couldn't make it next year.
Next
And
year.
it was amazing. We had some beautiful weather until about 3:30 in the afternoon, and then the wind came through. And everyone was supposed to break down at about 4:30. So I just told people, if you want to do it an hour early, let's be safe. Start packing your stuff up. It's okay. Don't worry about it. But we had food trucks and lots of vendors, and everyone had. I mean, the vendors were amazing. They were amazing. uh, we had a nice eclectic mix of paranormal teams. People got to talk with paranormal teams, to those more into the metaphysical realm, to authors, artists, jewelry makers. I mean, it was just phenomenal. It was really, really great. And then we had some wonderful speakers. We had one of our speakers. He's actually a team member. He's Apache, and Globe is right next to the San Carlos Reservation. And there's such an influence, Apache influence in Globe and Miami, that it would be. I mean, and we really recognize that on our investigations too. I am a firm believer in cultural competency and knowing where you go in, and how to relate to what has happened culturally in that area. And it would have been, I don't know, rude had we not recognized the impact of the Apache Nation with what we do. I mean, it's just it's intertwined. It's intertwined in this community. So we had Leland Lavender, and he actually owns a team called Paranormal Scouts. If you can check them out on Facebook, they're great. And he did a wonderful, wonderful uh, speaking presentation on Apache culture and its ties to the paranormal belief, because there's a lot where we can blend, and then there's a lot where it's completely different from us as Westerners, what we would consider with paranormal investigating. So that was really great. And then we had a lot of great workshops too. We had making homemade dowsing rods, making protection jars, making, the one that I would have loved for you to have done. It came out great though. Thank you for sending us all the information on it. Herbs and crystals for, to make metaphysical healing bags and protection bags. So yeah, it came out really nice. We were really pleased. So I'm glad it's once a year.
I cannot wait for next year because it is going to be on my schedule ahead of time.
Yeah, we already have a date picked out. Tentative date is the last weekend in September.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I can't even begin to say how much I appreciate you, and you've been not only a good friend of mine, but you've taught me a lot of really awesome things, and I appreciate you being my first guest on my first show. It means the world to me.
And I can't wait to come out to Salem and see. So what is it? Can you explain what are you doing, or where are you at in Salem right now?
So, in Salem, I work at Pentagram and I work at Zodiac Tea Room. And that's in the downtown Salem area. I do mediumship, and I do tarot, and I do past life readings, and I absolutely love what I do. There is an event that is yearly that Thomas and Charles do. They're doing a conference out here November 15th. And there'll be a little advertisement at the end of the show about it, but they do it every single year. And it would be wonderful to have you and your team come and hang out and see the event and get involved, maybe if you get a chance.
And if not this year, I mean, that's definitely a thing to look at next year. That's an
Yeah.
annual event.
Yeah, it's an annual event. Thomas and Charles the Showman, they put on like multiple events throughout the year, but Salem is definitely an annual event that's here right in Salem.
And so curious with your past life readings, is that something that you do? Well, all of your readings, but I would love to do a past life reading. Is that something that you do just in person, or do you do it like via video call? How do
Oh,
you?
it can, so there are multiple ways. It is in person. It can be via video call. Um, I don't usually do them, do the past lives like like the past life regressions over phone call, but I'll do a reading over the phone call because there's a difference between doing a regression and doing just a reading. But they can go to Pentagram's website, or Zodiac Tea Room's website here in Salem, Massachusetts, and they can also book online through Pentagram's website, which is pretty cool.
Okay, yeah, I just think that is so amazing. I've spoken with, there's another medium that I've worked with. He is actually in the UK. And one day he just started, and he's very wonderful. He's joined a lot, like we'll be doing an investigation and we'll have a live and he'll join in. And he's spot on. In fact, he was one of the ones, do you remember when I got this little house here and we had a spirit that was coming through? So to everyone watching, I'm gonna give you an example of how great Raven is. So I get this little house here. And I was actually looking for something a little bit bigger because this house is little. But but it was one of those, I had looked at a bunch of houses and I was like, no, no, no. And this one, I opened the front door and I said, this will do. And my husband's like, you haven't even opened a cabinet. And I was like, no, this is it. This is it. So we ended up buying it. And I was starting to have these things happen. And you're used to your what do you call it? Your daily spirits. You're used to what's normally around you, right? But this is a new home. I was coming into, and it was built in 1950. So it's been here for a while. I was coming into someone else's space, and I was like, "There's something going on. There's something going on." And so I had done, some of my investigating, how I do it with my dowsing rods and my spirit box and other things. And I had gotten names that had come through, and specifically one spirit that's here quite a bit. And it is, well, I'll tell you what Raven told me first. So Raven came over and I'm like, what are you getting? And I'm not going to tell you anything. I'm not giving up the goods. It was like a test, but that's good. We got to test ourselves sometimes, right? And plus, I didn't know, I wanted you to validate what I had gotten. And so you said, I see a man holding the hand of a little boy, and he's holding a teddy bear. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And you said, but it's the weird connection between the man and the little boy. It's the weirdest. You're like, there's something about that connection between man to boy, man to little boy, and he's holding a teddy bear. And I'm like, okay. So what the spirit is that I had been having come through, and I'd done, quite a bit of investigating and going to the museum out here that has the records and things like that, uh, because the street names changed years ago. But the spirit that I had coming through was actually a man, but he had what they now call cognitive, uh, oh shoot, a cognitive learning disorder, which back in the day they would call mental retardation. So he had that learning disability, and but he was a full grown man, but he had the mental capacity of a young child. And I had just during my investigation that he wanted a teddy bear. So I had put a teddy bear in the room that I was his room, and I had just done that. And then you come in and tell me that it was, the whole man to child, and you're like, it's this weird connection, man. I don't, and he's holding his hand. It's like the same but different. And I was like, you got it, you got it. So, and he still comes through quite a bit. I mean, we see shadow figures and things, and we actually have. I'll have to have a talk with you about, or we could do it on another podcast of yours about a spirit that comes through from the hospital. I mean, where I work at is just three blocks up the road, and it's the old original hospital, and it's incredibly haunted. And I mean, the staff knows what I do. My patients don't know what I do. I don't want them thinking like I'm the angel of death or something like that. But and plus, I want them to focus on what they're supposed to be doing, not what I do on on my free time. But
Right.
uh, yeah, I have employees, nurses, and staff and things like that. They love to tell me their stories about what they've seen. So another story for another day. But yeah,
That's
Raven's good. She knows her stuff. That was amazing when you came up with that. I was like, good job.
that was a pretty cool situation. Like I had not thought about that in a while, but yeah. And your
Yeah.
house has like all kinds of like really cool magical energy to begin with. So that was definitely a cool experience to be able to like see that as well and have that verified by you. It's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
I mean, we have him, his aunt, who was his caretaker or his parental figure. It's called global cognitive disorder. That's what it's called. And
That's right.
so we have her that comes through Anna. Her name's Anna. And ironically, for months before, we talk about how things get put in front of you for a reason. For months before, this name kept coming through on my investigations, and I thought it was the name, a first name of a person, and this name kept coming through, and this name kept coming through, and kept coming through. Well, after we moved here, one of the owners, that was their last name, and so that was really good to come across that. And then we have, apparently there was an for the front, the room in the front, my room where I sleep, is the spirit of an older man, and older, uh, and he's just one of those kind of curmudgeony, but it's but he's kind of one of those guys. He busts your balls, and then it's like, okay, you pass the test, and then they like you, that kind of thing. They put you through the mill. So yeah, so there's three here that are resident spirits here, that, and I think that's about it. We have some that come and go, especially the one from the hospital.
I can't wait
So
until you come to
yeah.
see Salem area and see like everything going on everywhere you walk. Like it's like living in a whole different world living here
Oh, yeah, you're talking about in Salem?
in Salem.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I can't wait for you to come here.
I've been there once. I went to Boston on one of my husband's work trips, so it was like a little vacation for me. And he seriously like hardly ever saw me because I wanted to experience that city so badly. And just walking around in the history and going to the churches, and I did a haunted historical tour, and you can get a pass and get on the bus, and it just takes you everywhere, and so it's hard to get lost. And and then like I snuck into that, what is it, the Omni Hotel out there,
Oh,
and
uh-huh.
calling my husband. I'm like, I'm on the third floor. If they find me, they're going to kick me out. I was going to have lunch there, so at least I would, it's kind of like a fancy hotel. I was going to have lunch there, so at least I could say, oh no, I ate here. but the restaurant wasn't open yet. So I just kind of was like sneaking onto floors and roaming around. But that, and we did take the ferry over to Salem, and it was amazing. We went to this, it was like a restaurant bar, and they had some sort of pickle. I remember it was a pickle martini, or you know which place? Something. It was an old bank.
Not sure which one that is actually.
I had something to do with, it was like pickle popcorn or something like that. It was delicious. It was something that
Hmm.
you had to keep warm though. But the building was an old bank, and it was so neat. And yeah, we only got to spend a few hours there. And I
How
really had wanted to go see the House of the Seven Gables, but I didn't have time because the ferry was leaving.
how long ago was it when you came? Because I'm wondering if it's where Blackcraft is now, because Blackcraft has the old bank in it now.
It Oh, this was a while ago. Yeah, this was like 5 years ago, maybe.
I'm not sure how long Blackcraft has been there, but if it's
And
where I'm thinking it is.
it's a big building, and it's a restaurant, and it has like a bar in the middle of it, and you can see like some of the bank stuff. I want to say like safety deposit boxes or something.
I'm gonna have to ask around because I've only been here now for about a year, so it might be that I haven't seen it yet. But would I'll have to ask.
It's right on that main street where all there's like the like if you get off the ferry
Uh
and
huh.
you walk up. Okay, now my memory may not be the best on this, but I want to say when you're walking up, you go past the House of the Seven Gables, right? Going
Mm-hmm.
toward by the ferry, and
Mm-hmm.
then you go a little further in and you make a left, and there's like that main area of town,
Mm-hmm.
and like with all the shops and everything. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Is there is it by a sculpture like is it by a sculpture by chance?
There, I do remember there was it. What is it a sculpture of? Refresh.
It's the oh my gosh. It's the witch. The
I remember that there were some cool things. You know, I need to go. My old phone has those pictures on it, I want to say. And,
Mhm.
but it was just amazing. It was amazing. And
Because if
I would love
that's
to go there and spend some time there because it's just, I mean, I love the whole Boston experience too. It was great. Cannoli. I got the best cannoli out there in Boston. It's like,
Mhm.
there's two, it's like there's a war of cannoli. There is it one is called Modern, I want to say.
Yes.
And do you make it into Boston very often?
Every once in a while, yeah.
Yeah, so there's two cannoli places, and they're like right across the street from each other, and they're like the battle of the cannolis.
I'll
So
have
I had to
to.
have both. I had to have both.
Some of
And
my friends are from Boston, so I'll ask them where that might be.
yeah, and then there's the place that does the oysters. Oh shoot, I can't remember the name of it. And I mean, because I was by myself during the
Mhm.
daytime and I was just tooling around. I mean, I was getting as many experiences as I could. I really was like, I need to, it's just such an amazing city. It is such an amazing city. So I
Sea
must
Level has a lot of good oysters, and so does Turner's has the best, though.
say, does it. This was a
Yeah.
place I can't even remember. My husband had told me about it, and he's like, "Oh, but you're never going to get in." And I went, and there happened to be like one seat right by where the guy's shucking them, and I was like, "I'll take it." And I sat and talked with him for hours and ate oysters and had, I want to say, Bloody Marys. And yeah, it was great. And my husband's like, "You got in there?" So I was like, "Yeah, I did." But yeah, it's an amazing city. I would love to go back there for a visit. I don't know if I could handle the winters. um after living in the Midwest and then leaving the Midwest.
It's funny because, like, I was in Utah, then I moved to Arizona, and then I came here, and the winter here is like so much more intense than even Utah is. So it's like,
Well, you're on the water. Being on the water and cold, just like growing up in Chicago on Lake Michigan, it is a whole different type of cold. It is just, it's just, yeah, it's a wet cold a lot of times. So
yeah,
there is a huge difference. Yeah. Mm, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's cold. So, but yeah, no, I will definitely make it out there one of these days. So
wonderful.
that should be one of my
Well,
26 goals.
Gwen, do you want to pop back up, my dear? Bless
Hey, I'm
you.
sorry, my fingers weren't working right.
It's all good. Well, I just wanted to say thank you again. And this was an awesome first show. I'm so glad I got a chance to get an opportunity to spend some more time with you, Rita. And I look forward to doing another show in the future with
Oh,
you.
yeah. I look forward to watching you on Monday nights. This is going to be wonderful. And
And
Gwen,
Rita,
Thank you.
thank you
if
so
you'll
much
hold on a minute after the show, I have something to tell you about what I was asking you about.
okay.
Okay.
You
Yeah,
want
if
me
you
to just hang out?
please
Okay,
hang
I
out.
will do
And if
that.
you don't mind, I'm gonna drop you down. Thank you for being her guest, her
Okay.
special first guest. You were awesome, and I've been listening. But I'm gonna drop you down, and I'm gonna let this lady here close it out, and we'll see you in a minute. That was awesome. I was listening and kind of interacting here and there, but yeah, you did a great show, and it's only going to get better. And we'll have it every week at 9:30 Eastern. Everybody, please view this lady. She's awesome.
Thank you. I'm so excited. And it looks like, let me look at my schedule here as I rotate on my fun little air couch here. Um, so next week, we have Larry Eisler that is going to be joining us. I'm excited.
Nice. We've had him
Yeah.
on the network before, and he's a great guest. So awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I am going to let you close it out and tell everybody good night, and I'm going to pop down. But when you say good night to everybody, I'll give you a few seconds, and then I'll end it. So, and once again, welcome to the network, honey. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna get back here.
All right, y'all. I just wanted to take one more minute here just to say thank you so much. If you get an opportunity, I am on YouTube, the medium frequency. If you are on Facebook, you can find me there. If you're on Instagram, you can find me at Salem in the Moonlight. If you are visiting Salem, Massachusetts, please come see me over at Pentagram for a private session or at Zodiac Tea Room. Much thanks to All Access Network for giving me the opportunity to be able to have my first ever podcast show with them and with all of you. And next week, we will be talking again with Larry, and I am going to be having some pretty amazing guests that are going to be coming alongside on the show next week as well. We're going to start something. I'm not doing it tonight, but next week, we're going to start something to where I do like a daily card pull for y'all. And we'll just go from there. And with that being said, have a wonderful, wonderful night. Good night, everybody. Bye now.